All right, so what do we have here? This is two solutions, or these are two solutions, my bad, to power surges related to lightning. I live in a high lightning area that experiences multiple lightning strikes in or around my neighborhood to the tune of several hundred per year. It's not Florida, it's Arizona, and yes, we have big storms. So I'll unbox this one, very nice. And what we have here are simple A to B converters, and they're not necessarily A to B converters, but I'm going to use them in that way because I've purchased a 2-pack. The simple principle of lightning or surge protection that we're going to use today involves taking out conductive material from your networking solution. Ethernet is a twisted pair of copper wires that transfer data and energy, among other things, and they can conduct energy from a lightning strike if it were to strike your home, the ground, in and around your home, etc. Nothing's going to stop an electronic damage when lightning strike hits your home directly. However, this should help in scenarios when lightning is near and would otherwise be picked up by your home internet that is likely running on coaxial or Ethernet to all your devices and linked in that way. So fiber optic is not copper, it's glass, tiny threads of glass with a couple chemicals, I believe. And it does not conduct electricity, but it does conduct data via light, the optic part. And so what all you have to do is convert or have one little piece of your network setup be fiber so that electricity can't go over it, and then on everything on the other side you could have Ethernet or wherever you want. You're basically making a gap that surges cannot cross. Now lightning will go through the air, which is several miles, and what is a couple of feet of fiber optic going to do? Well, that's for the last little bit surge that we're trying to protect against, which should help with power surges from the electric company too. I've heard 2 people in my life that their surge protectors functioned properly and prevented their devices from being damaged. However, computers connected to the same surge protector were fried because of the Ethernet cord and the electricity from a lightning strike or a power surge. It was a lightning strike in their case, traveled through the Ethernet cord into the computer and destroyed every component in the system. So this is what we're trying to protect against. Now, I have 2 things here. Now, in one case, I purchased these units from Amazon, 10G Tech. It was a 2-pack for $45, and it actually includes the transceiver. The transceiver is this piece here that goes into somewhat of a universal interface plug that is meant for fiber in this case. And what you'll do is you'll connect this transceiver into the plug, and then I can't open it right now on camera. Once you do that, you'll be able to connect fiber into this port. Now these 10G Tech ones come with an SFP transceiver. It's standard SFP, not SFP plus, so it's not the best thing in the world, and the entire unit, this, was $20, whereas each transceiver here that I purchased was $20. So we'll see about the quality of this. The TrendNet one I have here can be used in the exact same way as the 10G Tech. However, this one was $60 and did not include a transceiver. I had to purchase a $20 transceiver besides the fact. So I'll be testing each of them to see if they both perform the same feature that I'm looking for. In this case, a copper gap where I can have data pass through but not electricity to avoid a potential surge over what would be a copper line. So what I've also got is the TrendNet one, and this one has a couple additional features. For example, it can be easily unscrewed and taken out to be put into like a server box. And what we also have on here are these DIP switches at the top, And one of them allows you to force the handshake methodology. So in the case of the 10G tech, they're limited to either 100 or 1000, maybe 10 as well, gigabits per second line, or maybe it's megabits per second, whatever. But the problem with these is there's no handshake or negotiation, so you must pair it exactly with what you're looking for, which is why in my case, I have two of the exact same unit, so they'll be talking the same interface speed, so I have nothing to worry about there. Also, these 10G techs do not report when the fiber line itself is down. It may report when a line error occurs, but it's not smart enough to know which exact component has failed. This piece, however, will report if it's the fiber line, the Ethernet line, or something else, and so on. So it's a bit more helpful for network troubleshooting in the event of data loss or something of that nature. And also, it has a DIP switch that will tell it to automatically negotiate the transaction speed of data or force it to a predefined value, which is all in the little manual that it came with. So I'll reassemble this, which can be somewhat difficult actually. These little tabs, you have to slide them in without breaking anything. There we go. And it just screws on like that. And what I'll be doing here is including or connecting this transceiver into this port here, running one of these 6-foot fiber optic cables from this to my router. What I have in my home setup is a RS Surfboard modem, which all it does is take a coaxial connection from the internet service provider, and it translates that wide area network connection from the ISP into my local area connection network that is on Ethernet. And that Ethernet cord that comes out of the modem goes to my edge router, which is just a router. And from there it goes to a switch, and from there to access points and so on. So my goal here, because my edge router has an SFP port, I'm going to connect, instead of Ethernet to that router and the modem like it is now, I'm going to include this media converter to connect to the Ethernet from the modem, because the modem lacks an SFP port, and from there it will have a fiber optic connection to the router. So in this case, if a surge or lightning or some sort of electrical event travels across the coaxial line, which is possible, to the modem, it will then travel to this converter from the Ethernet cord on the modem. From there, though, it travels from fiber optic to the router, which cannot carry that current. So in this case, I am taking a calculated risk of this being destroyed, the modem being destroyed, and possibly the Ethernet cord. I'm not actually sure about that one, and maybe the coax cord too, but the cords are cheap. The modem was $200 or so. This was gonna be like $100 total. So that's better than it traveling to the router and then it spreading to every device that's connected to that router and all the switches connected to that router and the switches from there and so on. In this case, all I need here is two pieces, because I'm just going to create a little fiber optic bridge, just like how it's kind of pictured here, and I'll have Ethernet on both sides. Now this is because I have an outdoor IP camera that's in a tree. I've literally created a lightning rod in a tree in the form of an IP camera that has Ethernet buried in the ground that then comes back into my house. This is extremely bad. The Ethernet in the ground can pick up voltage and current from a lightning strike that hits the ground in any immediate area. I'm talking like a block or my part of the neighborhood or the tree that I just mentioned the Ethernet cord is running to. So that cord, which is carrying power over Ethernet, will come to my power over Ethernet converter, and then from there go into this media converter, and then the fiber optic cable, and then this, and then the switch that's in my garage. That way, everything on this side in my garage and the switch and everything that's connected to it will not accept the power surge from the outdoor equipment, whether it's an access point or an IP camera in my case, or another whatever setup, whatever have you. This fiber optic gap will prevent the electricity from coming outside into and then spreading throughout my entire system. So we have protection on that side, and we have protection on the modem side with this guy. So that at least covers both entrance and exits that I have in my current system. I may eventually change my computers to have a media converter on both sides, because I really don't want my computers to fry, and maybe I've missed something. But the main thing you can do when a power surge or inclement weather comes your way is to unplug your systems. Hopefully that will help you, because at that point it will have to conduct through air, which is hard to conduct through. You need lightning to do that. So I'm gonna wire these up. I'm gonna see if they work out of the box for what I'm talking about, and then I'll say yes or no, or what I need to change to get this level of protection that I'm going for. So hopefully that clears some things up, and enjoy the rest of the video. All right, I've actually never installed fiber before, even though I was a IT professional for some time and have done home networking and lots of other things. I've never actually had the luxury of a fiber connection at my home or office. So this will be the first for me. I might as well include it so you can see me fumble around with this and make fun of me. Now, this is labeled Mini GBIC, and this is what I think the port is for this transceiver. The transceiver which will accept the fiber optic connection and put it into this circuit card assembly and translate it into Ethernet. So I need to plug this port into here, and I can see that it probably goes in this way, because the clips, I believe, will be on what I think is the top. And there is a little rod in there, so you can see the gold plated connectors. So I'm gonna put it in like this. Oh boy. Actually, you know what I could do? And that seems to have been the wrong way, so let's do it like this. That doesn't go in either. Oh, this video is becoming really fun, isn't it? Okay. You know what I'm going to do is going to take out the pre-installed one from the 10G-Tech. We'll see what that looks like. G-Tech. Okay. All right, so the pre-installed one is facing this way, but it could be that the port itself is upside down. I'm not totally sure how to unplug this transceiver. It looks like there's like a locking carriage thing. That might be for the fiber itself. So it looks like this is a block. You put the thing in here after taking off these white caps, and then you lock this spring clasp on top, which locks the connection in. And I want to keep this on it because any little particulates could interfere with the light transmission in the fiber. But how do you plug this guy in? I do not want to break this. Should I just shove it in, see what happens? It's not wanting to shove. Let's try it this way. No, it's not that way either. Ooh. All right, we're at a loss here. All right, the internet wins again. So what I referred to as a spring-loaded clasp is actually a bail clasp latch. which is a common type of transceiver locking mechanism. And what it does, if I were patient enough to look, releases kind of a spring-loaded lock at the very bottom here, this being the bottom of the transceiver, and that was part of my problem, is I didn't even know what the bottom and top were. So when I insert it in here and open this bail clasp latch, it then allows me to slide it in, and a little bit of wiggling there, and then I can close it, and it should be locked in there. Now, I've got my transceiver and the media converter, so that's great. And then, for the fiber optic, I've never used these before, and I was kind of surprised. The packaging says to clean and dry the ferrule with lint-free wipes and pure isopropyl alcohol. Plug in and ensure not to exceed the minimum bend radius of 60 millimeters. However, it doesn't show where that's measured from. 60 millimeters is 6 centimeters, which is like 2 inches or so. I don't have a ruler in hand. So that's a bend radius. So the radius of the circle being 2 inches. I'm guessing this is fine. I'm probably not going to take it out of this configuration because I don't actually need the length. I only need the non-conductive properties. So we're going to assume that's fine. I'll probably look that up. How to measure bend radius. Enjoy the fastest fiber connection. Step 3. Beautiful. So clean and dry with lint-free wipes, which were included in this package. It's fantastic. And I know the problem is I need to do this with multiple different ones, although what I could do is clean them and then cap them, but I assume they'd be cleaned and capped from the factory, so maybe it's not worth it to do this. We'll do it anyways. All right, so the ferrules are now exposed. Going to just dab them in here, move them across, clean just the tips kinda. Okay, and a dry wipe on this side. Same thing, kinda scrape it around. I'm sure that's fine. Okay. Then we'll move to the transceiver. I'm guessing you gotta open this gate. Maybe not though. You can just shove it in. Okay. I heard the click, it connected. We're in the transceiver. Now, I have to clean the other side, and then I probably will recap it because I've gotta put this onto my router, which has the SFP port and will soon have a matching transceiver in it. So, although I could just plug it into the transceiver, and that is what I will do actually. So we'll wipe this just like so. Make sure these are nice and cleaned-ish. Don't know how to, doesn't say exactly how to know when it's clean. It just says to clean and wipe. And it does say to be statically grounded, which I am not, so we'll see if it works. Okay, that's all cleaned up. We take the other transceiver and we will install this just like so. Clip it in. Okay, now we are ready to put this into the modem end, and while I'm still rolling, I may as well set this to the side. That's fine. And we'll do our 10G tech run at the same time. So we'll open this guy while my wipe is drying out quickly as I can here. Take off the protective rubber, position the fiber, take off the ferrule caps. These are probably trash at this point. I don't think I'm gonna hang on to these, but maybe it's worth it to hold on to a few if I need to ever move or work on the fiber. Okay, we're just gonna clean that. Now I've made an assumption that these are the ferrules. There's a little picture on there, and I think that's what these are. So if I'm not cleaning the ferrules, I'll probably look like an idiot right now. Clean and dry, nice and dry here. Now the beauty is, I don't think they need to be bone dry. They probably should be, but it's not like it's gonna fry anything, I think. Okay, that's in the Tenji Tech side. We'll just grab, ooh, they are labeled A and B. That is interesting. Hopefully they line up. I guess we'll see. Clean this guy off. Beautiful. And of course I put the dry cloth on a dirty surface. Okay, those are nice and dry. Remove the protective cover from the media converter and the transceiver. Plug that guy in. And now we have lightning-ish, some level of protection from a surge. I'm not gonna say more than that. Of course I need to plug it into my network setup, and that is what we will come back to in a moment to see if everything works. Now we are on the edge router side, so I've connected to my router, and in here we have some basic wizards, and what I'm going to do is change the internet port, aka WAN, which stands for Wide Area Network, that connects to the modem, and the ISP, which is the Wide Area Network. We're going to change this from ETH0, which is the first Ethernet port on the edge router, in my case, to ETH5/SFP. Knows it's that SFP port for use with fiber, or possibly other things, I'm not sure. And once I change it to ETH5, you'll see at below, down here in LAN ports, if you can read that, it changes from not 1, 2, 3, and 4, but also to include ETH0. So I free up another LAN port to use basically as a switch port. So the local area network side now includes every Ethernet port on this specific device. Now, I'm not going to change any other settings, and before I do this, I'm actually going to download my configuration and then change it to ETH5 and click apply. And when I do this, I'm going to be kicked out of the interface, and I'm going to actually wire up what I've created here from the edge router on this side to the modem with an Ethernet cord on this side. Okay, so what I said earlier was to go to one of these wizards and then change ETH0 to ETH5 following or before you actually make the physical switch, so that you still have access to the router here. Now, the problem is this wizard will reset the router to stock. I thought it would keep my other configuration settings, and it doesn't. So QoS, quality of service, is tied to a WAN port, and that got nuked. My static IP addresses to my different computer servers got destroyed, as well as what else got ruined? Just a whole bunch of stuff that's been pre-configured in here. Name servers, everything was reset to stock. So this is totally fine if this is the first setup thing that you're doing. However, if you have pre-existing settings, do not use a wizard. Instead, what you should do is go to the bottom, click System, and then download a backup configuration file. This will download a .tar.gz zip file, which let's go to downloads, show in folder, and you'll see that I have a few backups here. This is what it looked like before I made the SFP changes. And if you have 7-zip, it's fairly easy to open this. So what you'll do is you'll open it, go to config, and config.boot is configuration file that it was settings that is loaded on boot of the router. So what you'll do is you'll edit this. And then all in here, you can see all my good addresses. You see you can hack me. But encrypted password, blah, blah, blah. And what we're looking for is ETH0. Here we go, interfaces. You'll see here, we have Ethernet 0, Ethernet 1, Ethernet 2, and so on, and Ethernet 5, which is the SFP port. You'll notice there's nothing interesting there. However, in Ethernet 0, there is something interesting. It says something about WAN, it says something about internet, DHCP. And then if we find other instances of ETH0, you'll see that it's called a WAN interface in this port forwarding section. And then there's other interfaces that call out ETH0 down at the bottom with traffic control, which is our QoS. So what you'll want to do is find and replace ETH0 and replace that, well, up, whatever, and replace that with ETH5. Save the file, close it. It'll ask you to save it because you've modified a zipped file, and 7-zip is smart enough to do that. And then you'll have an edited, piece, because this is zipped twice, it's kind of confusing, that should have ETH0. Basically what I've done in the interfaces section is copied out what was in ETH5, moved it to ETH0, duplex auto and speed auto, that's it, and then pasted the WAN stuff into Ethernet 5. You may be able to put a description as local in here. I'm not sure if that affects anything. Let's see. Doesn't really say anything here, but maybe. Anyways, you zip this up now that ETH5 has the WAN stuff in the interfaces section, and down below in the other callouts to WAN interface. Basically everywhere you say ETH0, make it ETH5 to switch the WAN interface to ETH5, and then in the interfaces section, there's a section for ETH0. Move what was in ETH5, the non-interesting stuff, put that in ETH0, and move the interesting stuff from Ethernet 0 that was configured for WAN into ETH5. This will preserve all your other settings, and then you can save all that, and then go back into EdgeOS, System, and upload a configuration file. And then following that, your router will reboot. You may have to reboot your modem and other things to get things to work. And in my case, my dynamic or my IP address from my internet service provider changed somewhere around this point. So I had to go to IP Chicken and figure out what my new IP address was. Okay. Pretty great. And here is the moment you've all been waiting for. The fiber loop. Unfortunately, these 10G-Tech guys do not have wall mounts. Oh my gosh, it's annoying. So I had to use these lag screws with a lip. And I probably could have used washers to get these onto the wall. And then I have the fiber loop hanging, and the bend radius I discovered says on the package 60 millimeters, which is 6 centimeters. you can see the loop there has, it's actually about a 20 centimeter diameter, which means the radius is 10, which is greater than 6. So we're good on that. Quiet. The problem with the bend radius is that the glass, if it's bent too much, the light can't bounce efficiently through a thin glass cable or at all. So not enough data or none gets through. It's just the properties of light bouncing through glass. And yeah, it seems to be working. As you can see, I have an Ethernet cord going from here, this big loop, because I don't have a 1-footer, into this converter, which then goes into the fiber loop, and then goes into another Ethernet cord, which is a power over Ethernet injector. So I have data from this guy going through here, then we're going to add power to the Ethernet cord. Now it's carrying power over this copper line underground into a tree. So if the lightning strike were to hit around there, it'll bring energy through here, destroy the power over Ethernet injector, probably fry all the cabling, destroy the media converter, and then it has nowhere to go after that, except possibly through this powered cord. And that leads down to this grounded power strip slash surge protector. It's not very good surge protector. I should probably get a better one here, because that's where I'm guessing the electricity is going to want to go. This is the path of least resistance, which then goes into the wall and so on. But at least it's not going through the networking cables. And none of my computer stuff is plugged into here. All the computer stuff is on a different circuit. So if it were to strike, it'll probably destroy everything on the circuit in the garage, which includes the AC unit, the TV, the stereo, all this stuff that's plugged in here, potentially the pinball machine, but that's on another surge protector, a good one, so hopefully that will be stopped. But none of my computers, which is like the really irreplaceable stuff, none of this stuff I have to live with. I can live without these things. So that's it. No more lightning. All right. What you're seeing right now is the bird feeder, which is connected now with the fiber loop. Beautiful. My speeds are about the same. I could do a speed test right now. We'll just do a crappy one. Whatever the first one is on Google, it's gotta be the worst one. Oh, beautiful. Reliable fiber internet. Oh, now I can say I have fiber at my house. Yeah, so this hasn't changed. I believe I'm paying for like $250, so 130 is perfect. That's about all they want to give you. And then, yeah, this is about right too. That's just fine. Great. So that's all. I will say, let's see, the trend guy. Does it have things on the back? Let's go find out. So the trend one does have mounting holes for a wall mounted type connection. So if you want to mount it onto the wall, you will have to get the TrendNet ones and not the 10G Tech. This one has been working great after I figured out the software issues on my router and how to configure the port properly. So this guy has been fine, and the ones in the garage are also working fine. So I can recommend both of these products. Different uses. I expect to connect this to different speed interfaces, and I just don't want to worry about the overhead with negotiation and things, and I don't really understand exactly what this does over the other units. But a reviewer mentioned that the handshake is automatically negotiated in here, and it shows the proper link state when the fiber itself is down versus the Ethernet. So I wanted this on the modem and router side for easier diagnosis and because I assume the speeds may change in the future as I upgrade my interfaces. However, the point-to-point one, that shouldn't matter at all because it's one unit to another unit. So very simple, I could go the cheaper route with those. Very simply, but they're both good. Thank you for watching.